Good morning. Last week we talked about elasticity, and we said that we can calculate elasticity for demand and for supply. With respect to demand, there are three different types of elasticities. Number one, price elasticity of demand. Number two, income elasticity of demand. And number three, cross elasticity of demand. With respect to supply, we are going to talk only about one type, which is price elasticity of supply. Okay, now we are going to recap what we did last week. What's elasticity? Or what's price elasticity of demand? As we said, it is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. It's calculated as percentage change in QD divided by percentage change in price. As we said, that there are two different types of price elasticity of demand: point elasticity and arc elasticity. With respect to point elasticity, it is calculated as change in quantity over a change in price multiplied by B over Q. Change in quantity over a change in price is the slope of the demand function, which is negative B. So we can write elasticity of demand as negative B multiplied by B over Q. With respect to arc elasticity, is calculated as change in quantity over a change in price multiplied by B2 plus P1 over Q2 plus Q1. The value of elasticity ranges from 0 to infinity. And as we said, it must be negative, as the negative stands for the negative relationship between price and the quantity demanded. So negative sign is due to law of demand. If it is 0, so the demand is perfectly inelastic. If it is less than 1, so it is inelastic demand. If it is 1, it's unit elastic. Greater than 1 is elastic demand. And finally, if it is infinity, it is perfectly elastic demand. And then we study the relationship between total revenue and elasticity. As we said, total revenue is calculated as price multiplied by quantity. So according to law of demand, if price increases, quantity will decrease and vice versa. So how this is going to affect the total revenue? As we said, if demand is elastic, In this case, if price increases, total revenue will decrease. If it is inelastic demand, if price increases, total revenue will increase. And if it is unit elastic, if price increases, total revenue will be constant. Okay, let's take an example. If you know that the demand function QD equals 160 minus 7B and QS equals 40 plus 3P. Requirement number 1, calculate equilibrium, price, and the quantity. In order to find equilibrium, we are going to solve the two equations simultaneously. So QD equals QS, 160 minus 7P equals 40 plus 3P. So 160 minus 40 equals 7P plus 3P. 120 equals 10P. Price equals 12. So the equilibrium price will be 12. Now we are going to substitute in QD or QS in order to find the equilibrium quantity. 40 plus 3 multiplied by 12. So the equilibrium quantity will be 76. Okay, requirement number 2 is to find elasticity at equilibrium. So number 2, calculate price elasticity of demand at equilibrium. At equilibrium means that there is only one point, so we are going to use the law of the point elasticity of demand. As a result, EZ equals negative B multiplied by P over Q. From the equation, negative B is negative 7 multiplied by 12 divided by 76. It's negative 1.105. We are going to neglect the negative sign, as the negative sign stands for the negative relationship between price and the quantity demanded, and we are going to take the absolute value. The absolute value is greater than 1, so the demand is elastic. Do you think it's better for the producer to increase price or decrease it? With respect to the producer, it's better for him to decrease price as the demand is elastic. So in this case, total revenue will increase. So it's better for him to decrease price. Okay, now we are going to start another type of elasticity, which is income elasticity of demand. EI. EI stands for income elasticity of demand. It is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in price. It is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to change in income. So it is the same definition as price elasticity of demand, except in only one word, which is income instead of price. It is calculated as percentage change divided by percentage change in income. And percentage change in QD is calculated as change in quantity over average. The same with respect to income, it's calculated as a change in income over average income. We are going to use only one type of income elasticity of demand, which is arc elasticity. So we can write income elasticity of demand as Q2 minus Q1 over income 2 minus income 1 multiplied by I2 plus I1 divided by Q2 plus Q1. This means that it's almost similar to the price elasticity of demand, except that we are going to replace income instead of price. The value of income elasticity of demand ranges from 0 to infinity. But in this time, it can be positive or negative. This is related to the type of the commodity, whether it is normal goods. So the relationship in this case will be positive relationship, as we said before. If income increases, the demand for the normal commodity is going to increase. If it is negative, this means that the commodity is inferior goods. As we said before, if income increases and the commodity is inferior, so demand for the product is going to decrease. And the value, the absolute value, ranges from 0 to infinity. The same, perfectly inelastic, inelastic, unit elastic, elastic, and perfectly elastic. So if you calculate income elasticity of demand, and you find it negative 1.5. Negative sign stands that the commodity is normal, while the 1.5 stands that the demand is elastic. So elastic and the commodity is inferior. Case number 2, negative 0.3. Negative stands that the commodity is inferior, while 0.3 stands that the commodity is inelastic, or the demand is inelastic. يبقى inelastic, inferior commodity. If income elasticity of demand is 1.5, so it is positive. This means that the commodity is normal. 1.5 is elastic and normal. If it is 0.3, so it's positive, which means that the commodity is normal, and the demand less than 1, so it is inelastic normal commodity. Okay, this is the second type of elasticity. Number 3. Cross elasticity of demand. Cross elasticity of demand is related to price of related goods. So this means that EXY, which is the cross elasticity of demand, is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity demanded of X, of commodity X, due to change in price of commodity Y. It's calculated as percentage change in quantity demanded of X divided by percentage change in price of Y. Using the same way, percentage change in quantity demanded of X equals Q2 of X minus Q1 divided by the average. And the same with the percentage change in price. BY2 minus BY1 divided by BY2 plus BY1 divided by 2. So it can be written as QX2 minus QX1 divided by BY2 minus BY1 multiplied by BY2 plus BY1 divided by QX2 plus QX1. The value can be positive or negative. It stands for the type of the two commodities, whether they are substitutes or complements. As we said, substitutes such as Pepsi and Coca, or coffee and tea. If price of tea increases, so people are not going to demand tea, and they are going to shift their demand to coffee. So the demand for coffee is going to increase. So the relationship between price of tea and demand for coffee is positive relationship. So if the value of the cross elasticity of demand is positive, this means that the two commodities are substitutes for each other. Negative stands that the two commodities are complements. Complements such as tea and sugar. If price of tea increases, so demand for tea is going to decrease, as well as the demand for sugar. So the relationship between price of tea and demand for sugar is negative relationship. So the two commodities are complements. The value ranges from 0 to infinity. Of course, we are going to take the absolute value. The absolute value can be 0, less than 1, 1, greater than 1, or infinity. If it is 0, so it's perfectly inelastic. If it is less than 1, it is inelastic. 1, unit elastic. Greater than 1, elastic. And finally, infinity, perfectly elastic. So if we calculate the cross elasticity, and it is number 1, it is negative 1.3. Negative means that the two products are complements. 1.3 means that the demand is elastic. If it is negative 0.7, negative means they are complements. 0.7 means that the demand is inelastic. .5 positive. So the two products are substitutes. And the demand is elastic. Positive 1. The two products are substitutes. And the demand is unit elastic. .5 positive means that the two products are substitutes. 0.5 is less than 1, so the demand is inelastic. So with respect to income elasticity of demand or cross elasticity of demand, the number tells us two different things. Number 1, the type of the two different commodities, whether they are substitutes or complements in case of cross elasticity of demand, or normal and inferior in case of income elasticity of demand. Okay, and the second part, which is the absolute value of the number, tells us whether the commodity is elastic or inelastic or so on. This is with respect to the three different types of elasticity of demand. Now we are going to talk about elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of supply. Elasticity of supply is the degree of the responsiveness of quantity supplied to change in price. It is calculated as percentage change in QS divided by percentage change in price. Percentage change in QS is calculated as average quantity divided by is calculated as a change in quantity over average quantity, and percentage change in price is calculated as a change in price divided by average price. So we can write it as Q2 minus Q1 divided by B2 minus P1 multiplied by B2 plus P1 over Q2 plus Q1. And this is arc elasticity. With respect to price elasticity of supply, it can be point elasticity as well. So if it is point elasticity, so it's gonna be calculated as Q2 minus Q1 over B2 minus P1 multiplied by B over Q. This is the slope of the supply function. So it is multiplied by B over Q. The value in this case must be positive, as the relationship between price and the quantity supplied is positive relationship, law of supply. The value ranges from 0 to infinity. If it is 0, so the demand is perfectly inelastic. Less than 1, inelastic. 1, unit elastic. Greater than 1, elastic. And infinity, perfectly elastic. Returning back to our example, which is QD equals 160 minus 7P, and the QS equals 40 plus 3P. And as we calculated, equilibrium price was 12 and equilibrium quantity was 76. Now we would like to calculate price elasticity of supply at equilibrium. So it is elasticity of supply at equilibrium, which means point elasticity of supply. So it's calculated as its point, so D multiplied by P over Q. We are going to get the value of D from the supply function, which is 3 multiplied by 12 over 76. It's 0.47. So in this case, the supply is inelastic supply. Using the same example, if you know that consumer income is going to increase from 500 to 750. As a result, demand is going to increase by 40 at each price level. What is the new equilibrium price and the quantity? In order to find the equilibrium price, we have to find first the new demand function. New demand is old demand function plus or minus the change, as demand is going to increase, so it's plus 40. So the new demand function 200 minus 7p. Now we are going to get the equilibrium. Equilibrium will be achieved when QD new equals QS. 200 minus 7p equals 40 plus 3p. So it's 200 minus 40 equals 10p. 160 equals 10p. So equilibrium price equals 16. We are going to substitute in the new demand function or the old supply function. Equilibrium quantity will be 40 plus 3 multiplied by 16. So it is 88. What is the income elasticity of demand? Here we would like to find I1 and I2, Q1 and Q2. I1 was 500 and I2 750. With respect to the quantity, equilibrium quantity number 1 was 76. Equilibrium quantity number 2, 88. Now we are going to substitute in elasticity of demand, income elasticity of demand, which is Q2 minus Q1 divided by I2 minus I1 multiplied by I2 plus I1 divided by Q2 plus Q1. 88 minus 76 divided by 750 minus 500 multiplied by 750 plus 500 divided by 88 plus 76. So it is 0.37. Okay, this is income elasticity of demand. The value is positive, which means that the commodity is normal. The value less than 1, so it is inelastic. Okay. So now we can summarize the price elasticity of demand and supply as follows. ED arc Q2 minus Q1 divided by P2 minus P1 multiplied by P2 plus P1 over Q2 plus Q1 point Q2 minus Q1 over P2 minus P1 multiplied by P over Q. Income Q2 minus Q1 over I2 minus I1 divided by I2 plus I1 over Q2 plus Q1 cross Qx2 minus Qx1 divided by by2 minus by1 multiplied by by2 plus by1 divided by Qx2 plus Qx1. Finally, elasticity of supply is calculated as Q2 minus Q1 divided by P2 minus P1 multiplied by B2 plus P1 divided by Q2 plus Q1. And with respect to points, it's calculated as Q2 minus Q1 divided by B2 minus P1 multiplied by B over Q. This is D multiplied by B over Q. And this is negative P multiplied by B over Q. This is a summary of all the rules in this chapter. Almost they are one rule, and we are going to change B with I with B of commodity Y. And the rule is common in all of the cases. And with respect to the value of all of them ranges from 0 to infinity. The sign will matter only in case of income elasticity and cross elasticity. This is the end of our chapter. See you next week, inshallah. Thank you.